Hi everyone. Sorry for the 3 minute delay. I was having some technical issues. As promised, a live stream to take questions and answer them about microeconomics. I have a short presentation prepared, but it's mainly a Q&A. This is just in case nobody showed up and just for me to have something to talk about. So welcome. Oh, hi Klaus. How are you? So before we get started, let's just roll the intro. So, hi Klaus, how are you? I'm very good, thank you. As promised, this is a live Q&A for microeconomics. I have some sort of tricky concepts that I highlighted here, but again, it is a Q&A, so I would encourage the audience to engage. So Klaus, before I get started, do you have any questions from microeconomics? Now, next week at the same time, there will be a live stream for macro, and then the week after there will be a live stream for the global economy. So you will all get over the next over the next couple of weeks, you'll get a live stream to take questions and answers from micro, macro, and the global economy. Now, for those of you joining, please consider looking at the video description below. There are many ways you can support the channel by becoming a channel member or by buying me a coffee. Buying me a coffee is just a way to, say thanks. I would really appreciate it. Yes, I have a full-time job as an econ teacher, but creating these videos and taking the time to create these resources is, it's work, and I like when people show their appreciation. There's plenty of exclusive content for members, so I'd like to thank those of you who are already members. Hey, Shubh, how are you? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. And Pallavi, hi. Wow, we've got lots of people joining us. That's great. So this is a live stream to answer questions about microeconomics. All right. As I said, I have some things prepared, but I would also like to encourage you to ask me your questions. So, all right. Oh, okay. All right. Hi, Shobha. How are you? So what kind of questions do you have from microeconomics, or would you rather that I go through my highlighted topics and then you can ask me questions on each slide? What do you prefer, Klaus and Shobha? What's better for you? All right. So I'm just waiting for you guys to answer, but I just wanted to go to demand supply for a second. Okay. I wanted to go to demand supply, and I wanted to talk about the way students use. Okay, behavioral economics. I'll definitely. I can talk. I can talk about behavioral economics. Shobh, did you find the video that I created about behavioral economics? Did you find that useful? Okay, what kind of questions could arise? All right, that's a good suggestion. Um, all right, so first I wanted to quickly talk about when is it appropriate to use the word demand and when is it appropriate to use the word quantity demanded. Okay, remember when you're talking about shifts of the curve or any of the non-price determinants. So non-price determinants and shifts of the curve, you use the word demand. But when you're talking about changes in price and movements along the curve, you use the word quantity demanded. The same applies for supply. When you're talking about any of the non-price determinants of supply and shifts, you use the word supply. But when you're talking about any movements along, which are caused by changes in price, you use the word quantity supplied. This is really important, okay? Because a lot of students use the word demand and quantity demanded interchangeably as if they mean the same thing, but they don't. So if the demand curve has shifted, this will cause a movement along the supply curve. So here you say demand has changed and quantity supplied has changed. Okay, so recognize that if the demand curve shifts to the right, you say there's an increase in demand, which led to a rise in price, which led to an increase in quantity supplied. Okay, so recognize when to use the words demand versus quantity demanded, supply versus quantity supplied. Now, Shub wanted to talk about behavioral economics, which I honestly, Shub, I've got some questions here. So let's have a look at paper one first set, and let's go to the behavioral economics questions. So I am trying to. This is all. Let's see what questions there might be about behavioral economics. All right, so it's not in this set. Let's see this other set. Paper two. No, paper one. We want paper one. Paper one, second set. Let's see here. Okay, so for some reason, in this resource that I have, all right, I think so. My suggestion, if I let me open up the syllabus, and I'll tell you how questions can be structured for. Let me just find the syllabus outcomes. Okay, so you need to recognize that behavioral economics, the entire unit, first of all, this is high level only. So Klaus, are you doing HL or SL? And hey, Farhan, how are you? Um, behavioral economics is high level only. Okay. Now, because it's all AO3, it can be used in paper one, part B questions, to, what's the word, to evaluate when you're talking about the law of demand or the non-price determinants of demand. So you could have a question like, using real-world examples, discuss or evaluate the, I don't know, applicability of the law of demand and the theory of non-price determinants of demand in predicting consumer behavior. Does that make sense, Shobha? So you need to understand that behavioral economics is a critique. So this whole chapter, this whole topic is a critique of the regular theories of demand and supply. So you can use them when you evaluate. So say, for example, the law of demand is based on the assumptions that consumers are rational, that they're maximizing their utility, and that they have perfect information, complete information. These are all unrealistic assumptions, and they don't apply in the real world. However, in the real world, we have observed lots of behavior that consumers don't always behave rationally. A lot of our decisions are driven by biases. We have bounded rationality, bounded self-control, bounded selfishness. Okay, so because the depth of teaching is AO3, it will either be used to evaluate and discuss in a paper one, part B question, or there could be a paper two question, a text. Okay. Oh, I just remembered. I think I have an example of a question. Okay. So let me go to microeconomics, choice architecture. So this is actually a really good extract that so this question here is from a teaching resource by Ellie Trigakis. Okay. So it says here, Sainsbury and other grocers in the United Kingdom experimented with nudge tactics. We know that nudge theory is part of behavioral economics in an effort to influence consumer choices in their store. Part of the experiment involved moving demerit goods like sugary cereals to the top shelf and more nutritious high fiber cereals to the eye level shelves. People tend to look at eye level. It's very rare that they really, look up and down. Okay, so if you want to increase the sales of something, put it at eye level. People are lazy. All right. The results were disappointing as there was an insignificant change in consumption patterns. Other experiments, however, involved moving sugary snacks to less commonly used aisles, the aisles that don't have that much foot traffic, while promoting healthier food choices in more commonly used areas, such as ladder racks at aisle ends. This choice architecture showed a significant improvement in the overall healthiness of consumer purchases as sales of fruits, vegetables, and grains increased. While results differed depending on the experiment, the chair of the Collaboration for Healthier Lives UK remained optimistic as more experiments are planned for the future. Okay? So here's a news extract, and the source is the grocer. And you can see some of the questions, like these could be found in paper 2 or paper 3. Define nudge, that's related to behavioral economics. Define demerit goods. Define choice architecture. Use an appropriate diagram to explain how choice architecture was used to increase the consumption of healthier foods. So you can talk about how choice architecture led to an increase in the demand of healthier foods by placing them in more commonly used area or at eye level. Okay? And then using information in the text, recommend an alternative policy that governments could use to try to reduce the consumption of sugary cereals. So you can see here, choice architecture, nudge theory, behavioral economics is kind of embedded in a text that could be used in a paper 2 or a paper 3 question. Shub, are you feeling a little bit more confident? Like, you need to understand that behavioral economics will generally be used to evaluate how traditional or standard economic theory predicts consumer behavior accurately. Okay? Okay, so you're worried about the diagram. Well, so again, if the nudges are used to try to decrease consumption, then you would talk about, like here, the nudges are used to decrease consumption of sugary cereals by moving them to the top of the shelf. If that actually worked, if that nudge tactic worked, it should lead, the desired impact is to shift the demand curve to the right. Sorry, not to the right, to the left, to lead to a decrease in demand, if that was the desired outcome. But then it says here, the results were disappointing. There was an insignificant change in consumption patterns. So my point is, we can't always predict how consumers will react. Okay, so some places will try to put salad at the front of the buffet, the front of the line, to sort of nudge people to eat more salad, right? And then you have to kind of monitor the results. So here, yes, you could do a demand and supply diagram with a decrease in demand to show the intended effect of this nudge. The intended effect was to decrease the demand for sugary cereals. You can even get fancier and start with the negative externalities of consumption, because they're demerit goods. And you would say that ideally, if the nudge had worked, the MPB would shift to the left, closer to the MSB. Okay. Also, by moving healthier food to more commonly used areas, you're nudging consumers to use it more to lead to an increase in demand. Raquel, hi. This is from the Ellie Tregaki's book, but this is a teacher resource. I don't think Miss Tregaki's makes these. These are just sort of resources that are given to teachers who purchase the teacher resource book so that they can use them in the classroom. They're like little news extracts for real world examples and like a bunch of questions, so that teachers can practice with their students the policy papers. You're welcome, Raquel. Perfect. Wow, I like how everybody is interacting. And yes, to answer your question, Farhan, yeah, I will be doing these sessions once a week, just kind of it's a Q&A. Okay, so it's not really structured. I mean, usually I show up with some things I want to say in case nobody shows up. I've had live streams in the past where nobody shows up. So at least I'd have something to talk about, so that people can watch the live stream later. But I'm liking that people are showing up and they're asking questions. All right, Shub, how do you feel about what I just shared these ideas. Are you feeling a little bit more comfortable if there's a behavioral economics question? Also, can you relax? In paper one, if the behavioral economics question is tricky, don't choose it. Choose the macro or the global economy question. Like, remember, you have choice. Okay, you have choice. If you're really worried about the behavioral economics question, that's assuming there will be a behavioral economics question in paper one. Just don't choose it. But yeah, I see why students are a little bit stressed about behavioral economics, because they feel like, well, hang on a second, where are the diagrams? Or, this whole thing is AO3. Well, think about it. It'll probably be used in either paper two or maybe paper three. It'll either be used to evaluate and discuss, okay, rather than like, I doubt, but again, don't take my word for it. I do not create the IB exam, but I don't really see it being used in paper one as much. All right, that's enough about behavioral economics. All right, what other questions do we have? I'm going to open my. I wanted to take some time to talk about how the price mechanism works. Macro is way easier than micro, or is it just me? Um, so I think macro, because we hear about it in the news more, and there's a lot of politics involved. So micro is very businessy. Macro is very, you know, politicky, right? So we tend to hear more about macro. But I would say the diagrams in macro can sometimes get very abstract, and students struggle with them. Raquel, I would love to hear more about diminishing returns, MP and MC. Okay, so Raquel, first of all, MP is not part of the syllabus, okay? But MC is, all right? MP is not part of the syllabus, but I can talk to you about diminishing returns. The idea behind diminishing returns, let me see if I can find my study guide so I have some sort of, okay, the idea behind diminishing returns is, I'm just trying to find the chapter. Oh, that was in demand supply actually, so. This is my favorite resource. It's the Konstantin Ziogas study guide. It summarizes the entire syllabus in, it summarizes the entire syllabus in 200 pages, which is insane. It's great, actually. All right, supply curve behind the law of supply. The law of diminishing returns. Okay, so this doesn't have some kind of visual. All right, so this is what I want you to know about the law of diminishing returns. The law of diminishing returns, basically, assuming the producer has, so the law of diminishing returns. Let me open up this and I'll just add a page. So, law of diminishing returns. So to answer your question, Raquel, if it was from 2018, that was before the syllabus change. Okay, so when the syllabus changed, they just have the law of diminishing returns as a concept that you should understand, but MP has been taken, marginal product has been taken out. So 2018 is before the syllabus change. Okay, so what you need to know about the law of diminishing returns, and I don't know why what you need to know about the law of diminishing returns is, if a producer has some fixed FOPs, let's assume land and capital and enterprise. These are all fixed, okay? And one variable FOP, in this case, it's labor, okay? As the number of workers, as the amount of the variable FOP, so as the amount of the variable FOP increases while there is a fixed quantity of other FOPs, eventually, marginal productivity, so the extra output you can extract from that added worker will begin to diminish. Will begin to diminish. Okay? I don't want to draw the diagrams because they're not part of the syllabus. Okay, so this diagram is just so that you can understand. If I have here output, this diagram is not part of the syllabus, but just to get you to visualize the law. And then here, number of workers. Now remember, I'm assuming that capital is fixed, K is fixed, land is fixed, and enterprise is fixed. All I'm doing is adding workers, okay? Output may increase at an increasing rate for a bit, but then it begins to increase at a decreasing rate, and then it levels off, and then it begins to. This is total product. Okay? The point is you can't extract more and more output from a fixed quantity of FOPs by just adding workers. Eventually, if you have a food truck with one, say, grill, a burger food truck with one grill and one fridge, okay, and one counter space, you can't keep filling that burger food truck with workers and thinking that your productivity will increase, because eventually there will be too many workers compared to the quantity of capital and other FOPs. Does that make sense? That's the idea. Now, where does this become relevant? Well, because, so here if you have output and number of workers, and then you flip it, you have, and then you have cost and output. So Raquel, once again, this is not part of the syllabus, this first top curve here. This is the curve that's part of the syllabus. We know that the MC looks like this, right? We know that the marginal cost looks like this. That's really because the MP looks like this, marginal cost. So marginal cost is a mirror image of marginal product. An average product looks like this. That is why average cost looks like this. Okay? So that's kind of the idea. We derive the shapes of MC and AC from the shapes of AP and MP. But AP and MP are no longer part of the syllabus. So you don't need to know these curves. You really just need to know that this is what the MC curve looks like, and this is what the AC curve looks like. You need to know that MC intersects AC at its lowest point, which means when MC is less than AC, AC will be decreasing. And when MC is greater than AC, AC will be increasing. You can see here, if you split the diagram, here, MC is less than AC, so it pulls AC down. In this range of output, MC is greater than AC, so it pulls AC up. Okay, Raquel? How are you feeling now? Less stressed about the law of diminishing returns? Just remember, you can't keep extracting more and more output from a fixed quantity of FOPs by just adding workers. It doesn't work. Eventually, diminishing returns sets in. That's the law of diminishing returns. All right. Can you explain the natural monopoly diagram? Yeah, I can explain natural monopoly. So again, natural monopoly would have made more sense if they had left some of the concepts in the syllabus that they took out. But okay, so the whole idea behind natural monopoly, actually, you know what? Instead of drawing it, I think it's better for me to get it from. So if you give me a second, I'm sorry, guys, I'm wasting time like switching between notes, but I am organized and I know where things are. So just give me a second. I'll get you the natural monopoly diagram that's in this resource. Again, this is part of the teacher's resource, so it might not be available to you. But the idea behind natural monopoly there we go. All right. So what's the idea behind natural monopoly? When large companies benefit from what we call economies of scale, average cost declines in the long run. So what you see here is the long run average cost. Okay, you can see long run average cost declines over a very wide range of output, and then it begins to increase again. It's a U shape. So just assume that it continues here. Okay. Now, what if the demand for the product is here? So this is the again, this is the D demand curve facing the firm, which is the AR, which is the P, right? It makes more sense, okay, for one producer to meet the entire market. If another producer entered, so let's say if another producer entered, then this demand would be split in half. So this demand curve facing the firm will be here. If there are two producers, it will be split. Each producer will have a higher average cost. That's essentially the idea. The idea is one producer is actually more efficient than two or more. Why? Because one producer can meet the entire market demand while also achieve or benefiting from economies of scale. If there's more than one producer and this demand is split by all of these producers, let's assume it's split equally. So 50% is met by one producer and the other 50%. You can see if there are two producers, each of them producing Q1, their average cost would be higher. That's the idea. Okay? The idea is it makes more sense for there to be one producer. So think of, okay, Klaus, think of a small town of like 1,000 people. All right, a small town of 1,000 people. It makes sense for there to only be one barber, one hairdresser. Okay, one hairdresser can be sufficient to meet the demand of the entire market and achieve economies of scale. But if there's competition in hairdressing, if there's too many hairdressers, none of them would really be profitable. That's essentially the idea. So a monopoly is only natural. A natural monopoly is a natural monopoly because one producer can meet the demand of the entire market, that town, and achieve economies of scale. If there was competition, it would actually be wasteful. So the best examples are utility companies like gas companies, electrical companies, and so on. Every electrical company needs to use an electrical grid. Okay, that electrical grid costs a lot to set up. Okay, so assume if there are three companies, each of them setting up their own electrical grid. Okay, each of them setting up their own electrical grid. That would be a waste of resources because one electrical grid can cover the entire city. Okay, so in some monopolies, it makes more sense for there to be a monopoly. Usually, it's better to have competition than monopoly, except in the case of natural monopoly. All right, Shub, the AC starting to rise again because economies of scale doesn't last forever. Eventually, it becomes what we call diseconomies of scale. So there is a range of output where long run AC falls, and then it reaches a minimum point, and then it begins to rise again. Okay, that's kind of the idea. The long run AC curve, and again, this diagram is not part of the syllabus. If you have cost and output here, the long run AC curve, long run average cost, is really an envelope curve of short run average cost curves. So think of these as different short run average costs. Okay, and all average cost, in theory, it begins to fall when there is high marginal productivity, but then it begins to rise again. So that's what the long run average cost curve. Again, this isn't part of the syllabus, it's been taken out, but this is so you can just visualize. Sure, but does that answer your question why AC is starting to rise again? Because economies of scale doesn't last forever. Nothing good lasts forever. So I hope that answers your question. Sure. Okay. What else? What else? What other questions do you have? Wow, it's already been almost 30 minutes. Can you delete the videos that are not from the syllabus? Um, Klaus, that's a good question. Okay, I will do that. Um, Klaus, I've been trying to do that, but I do have a full-time job, and I'm trying to keep my content, keep adding content. But you're right. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should go and edit. I'll edit the titles with old syllabus if that will be beneficial for you. There was someone who left a very rude comment. Um, on one of my videos. He or she, I don't know but they called me a fool. They're like, "You fool, why would you not say at the beginning of the video that this is part of the old syllabus? You fool, you're such a mess," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Listen, buddy, I am providing free videos, okay? I am trying to stay fresh and keep up with the syllabus changes, but recognize that I have a life too." So yeah. um all right, I will go and edit the titles or see what I can remove. I have been trying to get to that, but again, um, I don't always remember these things. So yeah, I will take a note. So I will take a note here. So edit titles of old syllabus videos. I just like didn't want him or her to be, that rude, like calling me a fool. And so obviously I reported the comment. I was like, this is harassment. You don't, I am doing a service for free. I'm not perfect. I'm not like, uh, I'm not asking you to watch these videos you chose. So, well, Raquel and Klaus, I'm really wow, Klaus, you have a predicted 7 and you haven't touched the book. Raquel, your video saved me in my mocks last year and will probably save me this year too. Well, um I was at a 4 in econ, now predicted grade 7. You know what? This is all, why don't you all like buy me coffees to say thank you, right? Like this is the kind of stuff that makes me really happy. This is the reason I do all of this. Like, people who tell me my predicted grade was a 4 and now it's a 7. Write these comments, engage with the videos. Please, every video you watch, like it. Even if you don't like it, just press the like button. Tell your friends to become members. I'm trying to really build resources for people to use, but also I'm trying to just kind of, make something from it. So thank you so much. I'm really glad to hear all of this feedback. It makes me really happy. I don't know, Klaus, if not touching the book is necessarily the right thing. I tell my students, so my students all have to buy this study guide. Um, where's the study guide? This study guide is incredible. Okay. Um, there we go. It's by Konstantin Ziogas. This study guide summarizes, you can see if we scroll to the very top. So this is what it looks like. Economics for the IB diploma. It's by Oxford, and the authors are Konstantin Ziogas and Marili Apostolacou. You can take a quick screenshot if you want. This is what it looks like. Okay, and make sure it's the 2020 edition. Okay, I can share the link. I actually think I have the link. You know what? Give me a second. I'll just get you the link. I have the link here for the ebook. Close. Remind me tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, there's the link to the ebooks.com. If any of you want to purchase it, it's not too late to purchase the ebook. It summarizes the entire syllabus in only 200 pages. So there you go. I just shared the link as a comment. It's a great resource. The entire syllabus, you can see here, 206 pages, I remember. If you go to the very end, the last chapter, there you go. You can see, did I get it right? Is it 206? Yes, it is 206. which I think is insane, summarizing the entire syllabus in 200 pages. Please check this out. I don't get any kickbacks or money from this. Like I don't make money from the book sales. I just really think it is the best book, and it has real world examples. It has oh wow, are you all in the same school? You're like you're like Pallavi, can you send it to me on Discord? Me too, please. Are you all in the same school? Are you all friends? Are you all like Discord buddies? Raquel says, I have it, but I've always been using the Econ in a Nutshell by Eli Tragakis. Okay, Raquel, I don't have Econ in a Nutshell. Is that a study guide? Raquel, is that a study guide, like something that she publishes? Because I haven't heard of it. Klaus is like, nah, we just met. Well, it's nice that you all just met, but you're talking as if you're buddies. You're like, can you send it to me on Discord? And Pallavi's like, yeah, sure, man. I like that. I like that. All right, so let's anyway. All right, Raquel, I'm gonna check out that study guide, but let's get back. Let's get back to reviewing. So, what other questions do you have? So, we talked today. We talked about natural monopoly. We talked about behavioral economics. Pallavi, I mean, Shobha, I would be careful with it. If it's released in 2015, then it probably fits the old syllabus and it's not updated to reflect the new syllabus. Because the new syllabus, we started teaching it in 2020 for exams in 2022. So anything before 2020 probably matched the old syllabus, not the new syllabus. Okay? All right. What other questions do we have? Yeah, Raquel, be careful. Be careful. Make sure whatever book or study guide you're using matches the syllabus that we started. Okay, Shobha said, can you read my previous message? You guys are chatting way too quick, and I am an old man. I have the PDF for this, but my question with this was, since it is a 2020 version, how is it relevant to the new syllabus? Wasn't the syllabus changed in 2022? Shobha, actually, the syllabus change was in 2020. September 2020, we started teaching the new syllabus for the first exams in 2022. So the first exams were in 2022, but we started teaching it in September 2020. So my point is, the syllabus was published in late 2019, early 2020 for people to start teaching it in September 2020. Does that make sense? So anything that was published in 2020, 2021 will match the new syllabus. Anything published before 2020, like 2013, 2014, 2015, will match the old syllabus. Does that answer your question? And yes, Raquel, no, the kinked oligopoly demand curve has been taken out of the syllabus. That is not part of the new syllabus. Yes, I should go back to my videos and update, and I will try to do that this weekend. I'm not making promises, but I really am trying my best to update what matches the new syllabus and what doesn't. But no, the kinked oligopoly demand curve is not part of the new syllabus, Raquel. RJ says, mate, I would really love to access your textbook, but I am, oh, my iPad stopped sharing. But I am from India, my family. Okay, is there anything you could do? I can't share the PDF with you, RJ, because it's a locked PDF. It matches my account, so I can't really share that PDF. But you know, I've had some students who have figured out ways to get the PDF on somewhere online, but like I can't help you with that because that feels kind of iffy for me. I'm sorry, RJ. All right. Any other questions? I feel like we've kind of drifted. I'm sorry, Raquel. I know. Hasn't Raquel? Didn't your teacher tell you what you should and shouldn't study? I mean, I'm assuming you have an econ teacher. Did they teach you the King demand curve? because if they did, they probably don't know about the syllabus change, which is kind of problematic. Yeah, RJ, you can just DM, Shubha or Pallavi on Discord, and I'm sure he, I, they, I don't know people's, I don't always know who I'm talking to. Unfortunately, so many IB Econ teachers know nothing about the syllabus. Hamoud, that's very sad. I'm very sorry. I've had 3 econ teachers, Pamoja, and then 2 other, not IB experienced teachers. Raquel, that is very sad. I'm very sorry to hear about that. My teacher didn't even teach me one HL topic. Well, that sucks, Kyles. So next week, same time, you guys, you can all tune in. I'm gonna have a live stream to answer questions from macro. Okay. So you can tune in for that. But before we end this, because I had an hour scheduled for this, um, do you have any other questions from microeconomics? Yes, Hamoud. Raquel, yes, there are some new topics in the new syllabus, and some topics from the old syllabus have been taken out. So yes, there are new topics in the new syllabus, and some have been taken out from the old syllabus. Hamoud, what is your question? Just wait for Hamoud to ask their question. Could you tell me where I can find sample questions related to behavioral economics for paper 1? Honestly, Shubha, I don't know. Honestly, Shubha, I don't know. Like, I just looked at the teacher resources sample paper 1 questions, and there weren't any questions about behavioral economics. So, I mean, I can look again. I can look again. So here's actually, Shubha, here's an example of a question. The key objective of firms is to maximize profit. Using real world examples, evaluate this statement. So in behavioral economics, we learn that firms have other alternative objectives like growth, satisficing corporate social responsibility. Okay. So again, here, yes, firms might want to, obviously, as firms, they are seeking to earn profit. Okay. But that is not their only objective. Many firms are driven by other objectives. So this is an example of a paper 1 part B question where you would use the alternative business goals, okay, or alternative business objectives. Hamoud said, why is the marginal revenue more sloped downwards than average revenue? Ooh, I love that question. I will tell you. So, okay, Hamoud. Okay. So, if you remember, okay, here we have let's say this is a regular demand curve here, okay, which is the average revenue. If you remember from elasticity, at the midpoint, demand is unit elastic, the absolute value. When at higher prices, demand is elastic, and at lower prices, below the midpoint, the demand is inelastic. Okay? All right. So now I want you to remember as you are traveling down the demand curve in this direction, price is falling, right? So when demand is elastic, a fall in price, because you're traveling in this direction, price is falling, will increase total revenue. Okay? And here, when demand is inelastic, price inelastic, a fall in price will decrease total revenue. Okay? So essentially, if we split here, we've got total revenue and quantity. In this range of output, a fall in price will lead to an increase in total revenue. And then over this range of output, a fall in price will lead to a fall in total revenue. So this is what the total revenue curve looks like. Now, marginal revenue is the slope of total revenue. So you can see over this range of output, the slope of total revenue is positive. Okay, so marginal revenue is above zero. Marginal revenue reaches zero at maximum total revenue. And then over this range of output here, marginal revenue is negative. And this is how we derive marginal revenue. Okay, so you don't always have to draw this diagram. The idea is at the midpoint where demand is unit elastic, this is the point where total revenue is maximized. It is the point where marginal revenue is zero. Above the midpoint, total revenue is increasing, so marginal revenue is positive. Below the midpoint, total revenue is decreasing, so marginal revenue is negative. So what's the takeaway? Whenever you draw, so here you have price, revenue, cost. Whenever you draw the average revenue curve, just in your head, this is the midpoint. This would be the point where marginal revenue intersects. You don't even need to do all of that, but just the idea is that marginal revenue is twice as steep as average revenue. And this is only in the case for what we call price makers. So this applies in monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. It doesn't apply in perfect competition. In perfect competition, the only market structure where there are price takers. In perfect competition, the average revenue and margin revenue are equal. So here you have price makers. This is what it looks like. And this is because of this relationship here. And price takers, this is what the average revenue and margin revenue looks like. Does that answer your question, Hamoud? Also, Hamoud said, what is your best advice for preparing for exams for someone who is not very confident? Unfortunately, I don't have proper teaching, but remain complacent. So I wanted to know what is best to do now. Honestly, Hamoud, buy the study guide. This study guide summarizes the entire syllabus in 200 pages. I shared the link to the study guide in the comments. I can reshare it if you want me to. You can find that as an ebook. It's about $30-something, which isn't very expensive. Well, I shouldn't say this. It's very insensitive. I mean, I live in the United States. It might be expensive for some of you. But my point is, I can't share this. It's a locked PDF. And also, as someone who creates resources, I recognize that the teacher obviously wants to profit from that resource. So you can check it out, Hamoud. Also, just attend these sessions. I mean, do your best. Hopefully you'll be okay. It kind of sucks that you have scattered gaps in your syllabus, but in your understanding of the syllabus. But I understand why that's causing you some anxiety. All right, did that answer your question? Yeah, Hamoud. So Paul Wang's study guide is based on the old syllabus. To my knowledge, he hasn't yet published a new syllabus study guide. There's a textbook for a new syllabus by Paul Wang, but if you're using the Paul Wang study guide, that matches the old syllabus, not the new syllabus. So I wouldn't really rely on that. Or just be careful of the topics in it that you don't have to. Yeah, Klaus is right. You have a little bit less than a month. If you get one of those study guides now, you'll be okay. All right, what other questions do we have? Again, please press the like button if you haven't already. Press subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the links in the video description below. You can become a channel member if you haven't already. Channel member. There's a link down below. You'll get access to about 45 to 50 high quality videos for members only. These, by the way, all member videos, match the new syllabus, because I only started channel memberships last year. So for those of you who are members, and I know Pallavi or Shubh is, I know Klaus is, for all of you who are channel members, the videos you are getting in the membership area match the new syllabus. Okay. Now there might be some public videos that match the old syllabus. I'll do my best to update the titles and change those. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I love how everybody's just chatting with everybody and not really paying attention to me. But I guess that's what you do on a live stream, right? Everyone's helping everybody and encouraging everybody, so that's good. Hamoud, yeah, do your best. You'll be okay. And obviously, you can all do the Discord thing that you do to stay in touch and help each other. And feel free to leave comments under my videos, and then I will reply to them. Like, I'm here as well, and I'll be every week, same time at this time. I will be online to take more questions from macro or the global economy. All right. Any other questions from microeconomics? I'm surprised everybody's asking about, like, market power and stuff like that, and behavioral economics, but nobody really asked me about like market failure or what's going on. Nobody's asking me about elasticity. Any other questions, my lovelies, before I dismiss you all, even though this is not a class, it's a live stream? I'm gonna wait a minute or so. Oh, product and cost curve. Okay, so product curves are not part of the syllabus, Klaus, but cost curves are. Okay, the only cost curves that are part of the syllabus are these two, MC and AC. These are the only cost curves you need to know, and product curves are not part of the syllabus. Okay, because if you look at the IB syllabus, which I will show you in a second, there you go. If you look at the IB syllabus here, oh, that's too much. There we go. You are only required to have these diagrams and calculations: MR, MC, AC, and AR. You're not required to know MP or TP, total product or marginal product. You're not part of the syllabus. Hamoud, why is the first half of the curve elastic and the second half of the curve? So Hamoud, this is part of elasticity. When we learn about elasticity, we know that demand is more elastic at higher prices, because when the product is expensive, Hamoud, consumers are more sensitive to changes in price. So demand is elastic at higher prices. And when the product is cheap at lower prices, consumers are less sensitive to changes in price. So demand is inelastic. This concept we meet for the first time in the elasticity chapter. The idea that along a straight line downward sloping demand curve, price elasticity of demand is not constant. At high prices, demand is more elastic, and at low prices, demand is more inelastic. That is part of what we learn in elasticity. And then that means at the midpoint, demand is unit elastic. So you'd have to go back and review elasticity, price elasticity of demand, and the relationship between the demand curve and elasticity, and also the relationship between elasticity and total revenue. Does that answer your question, Hamoud? You're welcome. All right. Klaus, did I answer your question about product and cost curves? Remember, you don't need to know any product curves. No need to draw product curves anymore. Okay? Only cost curves. Is Raquel still here? Because I might have, if you give me a second, I might have a good video to actually share with you all. So if you give me a second, I will share. Market failure, price mechanism, review of market failure, role of normative. I think that's the video. Check this video out. So this video will kind of economies of scale and the law of diminishing returns, but just product curves are not part of the syllabus. So check this video out that I just shared with you, and that will eventually link MP and AP to MC and AC. Does that make sense? So that video that I just shared, Klaus and Raquel, if Raquel is still on, I hope Raquel is still on the live stream. You can check that out. But just remember that those curves, MP and AP, are not part of the syllabus. It's just to help you see why MC and AC look the way that they do. Okay? All right, my lovelies. It's almost 10 a.m. where I am, so I have to get going. Next week, same time, I will be on for a live stream to answer questions about macroeconomics. So Hamoud, Raquel, Klaus, Shub, everybody else who, Klaus, anybody who has questions about macroeconomics, please show up next week at the same time, and I will do my best to answer all of them. Okay? Have a great, please consider buying me a coffee down below or a super thanks. If you enjoyed this live stream, click super thanks. All of these donations make me feel good, and they actually encourage me, by the way, to keep making content. So click super thanks, buy me a coffee, do whatever to just say thank you. I would really appreciate it. Become a channel member if you're not already. Klaus, May 14th, that's the night right before the exam. Yeah, I can do one May 14th, Klaus, if you want. Absolutely. Again, don't forget, press like if you haven't already. Share with your friends. Subscribe. Tell your friends to become members. Buy me a coffee or click super thanks. All of these donations are very much appreciated, and they motivate me to do more work. Okay? And I'll see you all next week. You're welcome, Hamoud. We'll see you next week. Bye.